Okay, I'm going to introduce you to Premiere today. Now, I made a video before with CS5, and this is with Adobe Premiere CC 2017. So 2018 is going to be very similar. You'll just have a lot more features in 2018. But let's just go through the basics of where you put things and how things are set up. Now, I've already set something up in my timeline, just so you can see how things look, and we're going to do very basics on this. So to start with, on the top, when you start your project, I would say look at the first video that I gave you because that's really a good setup and the setup hasn't changed. Once you're in the program, on the top, you're going to see a new sort of editing platform. So we start with assembly. Now over here, you're going to have what we call the bin, and for you, it has words that says click to import. I've already imported some videos, so I'm going to import again. The easiest way is just to double click, and I can go find some things. So I'm going to go to my video folder where I have something saved, and I'm going to put in, let's do these Peru clips. So this was our trip to Peru, and I'm going to just grab a couple things. And these are all little videos. Sure. Okay, so I'm just going to drop those in. You're going to see something just like this, import files, and these are all my clips. So I can do two things, and now I'm going to click on editing, and what you're going to see is it's going to give me two windows across the top. Now I've done some different things with how I've edited these and did my layout in here. You're going to have just kind of your overall clips like this where you have the two on top. So what this does is I can go into a clip over here, and as I look over here on the bottom, again, I can pull the marker. It's called a little marker, and it shows me what's in the clip. But if I double click it, it pops up here in my preview window. And this lets me see my individual clip a lot closer. I can see this was a tour of our hacienda. So I'm going to leave that here. Now this is not actually in my timeline, so it's not in my project. So I'm going to leave what I have in my timeline. I'm going to add something else. So here's a nice trick. Let's say I'm just looking at this, and I can pull the marker, or I can hit the space bar, and that's going to play it for me. And as I'm looking through, I might decide, hey, I only wanted that very first bit where we're looking outside. I don't need all of this hallway stuff here as we're walking through. So I'm going to just hit spacebar again and pause. I'm going to take the marker back to beginning and say, I just want the outside. So on your keyboard, you have an I and an O, and we call that mark in, mark out. So as I hit this spacebar, or I'm going to say I first, and you're going to see I got this little gray thing that just marked it in. And I'm hit the spacebar. And I'm going to say, yeah, I like all that. I like all that. Looks good, looks good. And I'm going to say, oh, mark it out. Oh, actually, there's more. I'm just going to wait and say, oh, okay, there we go. I'm going to hit the spacebar again. So I marked it in, I marked it out. So really what this is, it says this is just a little tiny clip within my long clip. So if I go up here to the preview window and I click and I drag it down, it only brings me that little clip. So I'm going to move the marker in my timeline, and you're going to see it is just this little bit, and then it stops. And that's it. It did not take the entire video. Now, I could take the entire video if I wanted to, but I know I want to trim this anyway. So I'm just going to slide. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And as I got towards the end, like, oh, I really didn't want the side of her head. So I'm going to move my marker back. I want it to stop there. So I leave my marker there. I grab the end and I just tuck it in, and it stops right at that line. And there we go. So I just trimmed it just by clicking and pulling in. You can see this little trim tool. So as I pull it through, and that's it. And that's the end of my clip. So that's one easy way to put this whole thing in there. Now I'm going to go to a different one. I'm going to say this clip here. And let's pretend I wanted the whole thing. So I can still take the marker, slide through. I'm like, yeah, I want that whole thing. If I just go inside this clip and I pull it down, you're going to see it brings the entire part. Now this one has audio, so if I look down here, this other blue box is my audio. So if I go over here, there's more in there. Okay? So that's just kind of how you put clips into your timeline. Whatever clip you put in first kind of sets the size. So this clip was smaller than the original size. So since I'm over here, I'm going to click on this clip. I'm going to click over here. And if I double click, I'm going to get the frame size. Now let's say you can't see the whole frame. Sometimes if you go smaller, 10%, you're going to see the entire thing, and your frame may be larger. So I'm going to go back to just fit, and I'm going to grab these corners, and I'm just going to stretch it out. Now I could stretch out even bigger if I wanted to fill the entire frame, and I just know that I'm going to lose some things. I'm like, oh, I can't see the edges. That's where I go to 10%. There we go. Or I could go to 25 since it's so tiny. And I could continue to resize this much bigger like that. I just know I'm going to lose some things on the edge. So I might decide, hey, I want to keep the black bars. I'm just going to go widescreen like that. And I click off and I'm good. Let's pull the marker. Let's go check our other clip. This one, small 2. Remember, I just double click there. I can stretch it out. And I'm good. Okay, now as I've made these changes, over here in my editing, I can see my effects. In your effects panel, it's going to tell you what you've done. I'm sorry, I misspoke. In your effects controls. There we go. So if I go over here and I've made some changes, it'll show me what changes I've made. So I'm going to click on this one, and you're going to see, so I clicked on my hacienda, and over here, my scale, I'm at 140%. Now I could make that smaller. I could click on this. It's called scrubbing, and I could slide that back and forth. That's another way to change the size. So again, if I go to a clip, I click on my clip. I'm going to pull the marker over there just so I can see that I'm in that clip. I look under effects controls and I can see scale. Now here's another thing. You also have position. So I could slide the position, left and right. I could slide it up and down. And those are things you could do by clicking inside here or by scrubbing. It's called scrubbing. Your choice. I can rotate it. I can do lots of things. Now, in a later video, I'm going to show you how to make these changes live so that it transitions from one thing to another. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing and I can't get it to be straight, I can just click in here and put 0. I can type things in there too, and it straightens it back out. So don't worry about that. Okay, we're not going to mess with the other things just yet. I wanted to show you just kind of where things are. This is how you put clips in. This is how you size them. Last thing we're going to do is I'm going to click on this clip and I'm going to move it so that it's touching. All right, there, cool. And I have this clip and it just cuts right into this one. We just call it a cut. But I want it to have a nice smoother transition. So I'm going to go to my effects panel and I'm going to look up video transitions. And there's lots of stuff for you to dig through and take a peek here, but I'm just going to go to one called cross dissolve. And so I click in here and I drag that onto my 2 clips that are sitting next to each other. Now you're going to see it's really tiny right here. So if I move my marker over there and I go to my effects controls, you're going to see up here, there it is. Now I can move it here and I can move it here. I'm going to move it down in the timeline because I can still see that. So over here on the side, these are your sliders that let you see how big or small something is. So if I expand this, I can make my videos big and I can still move this up and down. I can make them wider. If I go on the bottom here, I can make them wider, or I can make them tiny and I can stretch it out. So like if I stretch it out, oh, now I can see what that looks like. So you just kind of stretch these things out or shrink them and then slide back and forth. Pretty easy. So I just stretched this out. Remember, all of these are windows. I can shrink things down up here and give myself more room on the bottom. All things for you to play with. So I stretched it out so I could see this cross dissolve. And when I do that, you're going to see I got this trim tool again. But this time I'm going to expand that out a little longer. I want it to fade longer. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to stretch it on this side, if it'll let me. I can also type it in how long I want that to be, but I really want, there we go. I'm going to stretch it like that. And I just stretched out how long it dissolves. So let's shrink this down and let's go take a look and go to fit what that means. So I'll pull my marker back. I'm going to hit the space bar to hit play. Play is also here. Hit the space bar, you're going to see it's going to fade and dissolve into the other one. And that's a cross dissolve. It crosses over the 2 images and dissolves into each other. So then I can shrink my timeline down so I can see everything again. There are lots of effects for you to play with and look. Like I can make it go straight to black, go to white, dissolve. I can go to my 3D motion and make it spin. It can flip over. These are really things that you're just going to learn as you play with that. So one assignment I give to my students is like to put a bunch of clips in and do a bunch of different transitions so they can see what happens. And I say you have to have 5 clips, 5 different transitions. So we have just those building blocks. In your next video, I'm going to show you how to add titles and audio. We're going to come back to this, but I'm just going to end this clip now.